today, speaking on behalf of the African American community and giving specific examples of saying that white women, when a black man gets in an elevator, they cringe, hold their breath, and grab their purse. Well, guess what? I park in a parking garage, and every time I'm walking to my car and we're in the staircase and there's a woman by herself, she probably is nervous, and I make sure I stay far behind her. That's not racial profiling. That might be a woman concerned because she's by herself. And I would say to any woman that's gotten in an elevator or walked in a staircase to their car in a parking garage that they are just as frightened by any man by themselves out of concern for their safety. That does not have to solely be in a racial context.
All right, Ben Ferguson joins me now from Dallas. There he is. So Ben, thanks for coming on the show. I know we're not going to agree on this, right? And we've known each other for a long time.
We might somewhere. You never know.
Yeah. Do you really think that white women are equally afraid of white men and African American men? Do you believe that?
I think that women in a certain situation, like an elevator by themselves with any man, or a stairwell by themselves with any man, or if they're at a streetlight late at night by themselves with no one else in the car, are going to lock their door, they're going to clutch their purse, and they're going to do it because they're in a situation where they're vulnerable to any person. And it can't only be race, because I have seen women, when I go to my parking garage every day, they are nervous when they're by themselves regardless of the age of the man that's around them because they're in a vulnerable situation. That's not only during issues of race.
Ben, I don't disagree with you for some of that, but if you think it's equal, then I don't mean to call names, but I think you're sadly naive, or you're just being...
Well, but this is where I can go on experiences, Don. Don, let me ask you this.
You said she is probably... Hang on, let me finish. You said she is probably nervous. That's what you said in your comments. Probably. There's a difference between someone being visibly nervous or getting off an elevator, or you see them clutching their purses, or you see them locking their doors. And go ahead.
Are you saying, Don, that every woman in America that's white is automatically 100% of the time terrified of an African American man in any one of these situations, but they would not be terrified if it was a white or Hispanic man?
No, and that's not what we're talking about.
That's incredibly broad brush.
That's not what we're talking about. That's what you're saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying generally...
No, Don, you asked the question, and what you're implying is that every white woman in America is automatically terrified.
That's not what I'm implying. That's what you're hearing.
Well, then what are you saying?
That's not what I'm telling you about my... Listen to me. I'm telling you about my experience. The president is telling you about his experience, and you're saying that we're not having that experience, and who are you to tell us we're not having that experience when you're not living it? You're not in our bodies. It's insulting for you to say, oh, that's not happening. How can you say that? Well, you don't live as a black man. You don't know that.
First of all, I don't think, this is where you and I fundamentally disagree on this whole entire subject. You say that African American men are feeling profiled by white women when they get into an elevator. And what I'm saying is this.
I'm not saying they're feeling profiled about getting into an elevator. That is just, we're sharing experiences with you. That's not the only way people are profiled.
But Don, this is what I'm saying to you is there are a lot of other circumstances outside of that where women are just as fearful in that elevator or in that staircase, gripping their purse or locking their doors that do not involve race.
But chances are, Ben, that it's not going to happen with a white guy. I've been with plenty of white guys on elevators and white guys get on elevators with women and nothing happens.
So do you think that most white women are afraid of any black man in America?
I asked the white women on my staff before this, and they said generally they think that most white women are more afraid of African American men. No, that's not what I said. I'm telling you my experience as an African American man. So I told you, I asked the women on my staff, and they said generally they think that most white women are fearful of black men, and they're taught to be that way, especially white women in suburban areas. And that's the experience from white women on my staff. So go ask a few and see what they say to you.
Well, Don, first of all, I've grown up my entire life in a community where I was, in fact, a minority. I've also grown up where my father was in law enforcement. I've also been the victim
we have to wrap.
of a
My
gun
producers
crime.
are telling me we don't have time. Go ahead.
Well, what I'll say is this. I have been profiled, and the police told me I was profiled, but I don't assume that every African-American man, even though 2 of them shot at me from point-blank range, are out to kill me. And I think that's an overgeneralization to put it in race in such a simple term that paranoia of white people in America is the point where every black man is a suspect.
It's not paranoia. It's not paranoia, Ben. Simply just from a place of, I want to say, it's not entitlement, but you're at a place in society.
Well, I came from poverty, so I don't think I'm entitled.
Yeah, but it's still you still have a certain entitlement as a white person that many people of color don't have. You don't see that?
When I look at where I grew up, and I grew up in a community surrounded by poverty, and I was a minority, I don't think I had any extra advantage.
Scratch that. Scratch that. I should say a place of privilege. I'll wrap, producers. Hang on. I should say a place of privilege, not necessarily a place of entitlement. And you're filtering it through a place of privilege that you don't understand. Your privilege does not allow you to see certain biases in certain circumstances in society. And what I said on the air yesterday.
Don, I have to say
Let me finish. What I said on the air yesterday is that I hoped that you would sleep on it and at least think about it before having a knee-jerk reaction to what the president was saying, the most powerful African-American in the world, telling you that there is an issue, and you're telling him that his circumstances and what he sees and what he lives is not valid. And that is insulting to do that.
What I said was,
that's what you're saying.
Well, I didn't have a knee-jerk reaction because I've been talking about race the majority of my life, coming from a very racially diverse community in Memphis, Tennessee. So this wasn't knee-jerk. My point was this. When you say, and you walk out there and you
immediately responded to the president. You immediately responded to the president, but without even thinking. You didn't even give it 5 minutes. You didn't even give it overnight. You immediately responded through your filter, and you didn't wait and say, well, let me think about this.
Don, it was more, first of all, it was more than an hour since the president spoke when I made my comments. And my point was this, and I make it again today. When you come out as the President of the United States of America and you paint a picture that every white woman in America is overly racist towards black men.
That's not what the president said. You're putting words in the president's mouth. The president did not say that. He didn't say that. You can go back to the president's transcript.
He said that they clutched their purse.
He said he's had experiences where people do that. He did not say that every white woman did that. Now, that is taking a leap, Ben. I got to run.
He implied it.
I got to run from. He didn't imply it. He would have said, if he wanted to say that, he would have said all white women. He said he has experience where people do that. Some people do that, not all people. But anyway, my producers are going to kill me. I got to run. Thank you for coming on.